Right. So Sakshi, again, this comes to the basics of training, something that I always probe colleges and organizations to do is a training needs assessment. So for example, colleges have impaneled us for a basic English program, where we teach them reading, writing, speaking, learning. Because, even when you look at universities, now your university may be in a city, लेकिन वो सिटी में बहुत डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स और टाउन से भी लोग आते हैं जहाँ पे इंग्लिश टीचिंग होती भी नहीं है नॉर्मली. So their English is the English that they've heard their professors sing, which is also not correct.
Hello everyone, this is Sakshi and you're watching Inventiva. Now, people who work in a corporate environment know that it's a whole other culture there with its own set of rules. Hibiki is a corporate training organization for soft skills, leadership skills, and much more. Joining us today is the founder of Hibiki, Tanvi Ajmera. A very warm welcome, Ms. Ajmera. It's so great to have you here with us.
Hi, Sakshi. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too. Now, Ms. Ajmera, please give us a brief about your organization.
Right. So Hibiki was, founded due to the pandemic. So not a lot of us have a lot of good things to say about the pandemic. But Hibiki was something that I actually was thinking for a very long time. And eventually, due to the pandemic, since I had to come back to my home city, which is Calcutta, that's when Hibiki happened. Now, if I have to explain the meaning of the word to you, Hibiki is actually a Japanese word, which means resonance or echo. So when we do a training, right, there are two formats that I have observed for training in the last few years of my expertise. One format is very instructor-led, So, for example, when you attend the training, you think this instructor is crazy, like, inhone jo sikhaya, it's amazing. This is going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's one format. But what happens is, when you go back to your original self, which is, for example, maybe the training happened on XYZ day, eventually you still go back to your desk and you start working. So all that motivation and pep talk cannot be duplicated when you're actually working, because you come back to that same situation. So if I have to give you a simple example of this, I've been training for the hospitals in Calcutta for quite some time now, AMRI, Woodlands, all of that. When we coach on patient behavior, we say that even if the patient is abusive with you, you should be very nice and courteous. Now, while, in a session, it's very easy for me to say that. But when I am on the other side being abused, can I replicate the same behavior? So one is that format where you think the instructor is amazing. This person is the hero of my life, right? The other form of training is a very experiential form of learning, where we say that you can forget what you saw, you can forget what you heard, but you don't forget what you felt, which is exactly the sort of training that Hibiki is into. So every single thing that we do is very activity based and it's very experience led. So when you attend sessions that are done by Hibiki, the idea is that it's going to resonate with you or echo with you even after years of it getting over, because it's made you feel a certain way. That was how Hibiki was actually formed.
That's amazing, actually, especially in an era where mental health is, getting all the highlight, because it's very important. It's very important how you receive information with your communicators. Absolutely. Now, as we know, an organization is the reflection of the founder's vision. So what is Tanvi Ajmera as a whole?
I think more important than what Tanvi Ajmera is, it's important for you to know what Tanvi Ajmera is not. So for me as a person, I haven't been someone who's given up. I come from a very modest Gujarati background, wherein, a lot of people, especially women, do not actually take up careers such as this. So they are very set careers that women go to, and there's a very set life path that women sort of take up. But I think I've been one of, the first generations in my entire family who's not fallen to this myth. So that's the first thing, that I haven't really given up to chase what I have to. The second aspect of who I am is that I challenge myself at every position, So if you look at my entire career journey, I started my work with United Nations. I've worked with a group of hospitals. I've worked with an MBA college. And the reason I have worked at so many verticals is because I realized after a point in time, I was starting to get comfortable. As a trainer, I think it's the end of your creativity and delivery the moment you start getting comfortable doing that trainings. So let's say my youngest trainee has been 7 years old. And my eldest trainee has been somebody who's above 60 years of age, an IS officer who has a 230-page CV. So I have trained both categories of people, right? So challenging is the second thing, that I'm not somebody who's going to not challenge myself at every stage. And last but not the least, if I have to describe myself and the vision that I look at a world that is more empathetic. I understand that we're all wanting to make money. Organizations want to multiply their business. People want to ensure that they are climbing up the ladder. But I think somewhere in this process, human beings are losing the human touch or the factor that they have. And that is essentially what we try to recreate with Hibiki. So today, if you look at any organizational patterns, you'll see that for a lot of people, they quit jobs. One of the reasons they quit jobs is not because the job is not worthwhile, but it's because they did not like the boss. One of the reasons they don't like the boss is because they've not been able to connect with that sort of leadership. So that's the overall vision that I have, that when it comes to our students, when it comes to our corporates, we know there are definite problems. Today, if you do a talk session with most corporates, they'll tell you that Indian students have a problem with employability skills. 100% they have a problem with employability skills. But what are colleges doing about it? What are corporates doing about it? So again, if I have to give you an example about this, Sakshi, I've pursued my BCom honors in accountancy and finance. I was a 9.64 CGPA in my college out of 10. But for example, I've done journal, ledger, accounting. I do not know how to use Tally. Now, how is my education relevant? I am, I can't even compete somebody who has 1 year of experience with working with Tally because I do not know it. And now when an organization looks at recruiting me, they'll say, bhai, salary kyun de? Aapka to training mujhe karna padega. Absolute point. So everyone works with the hard skills. Parents focus on education, academics, marks. School gives you a mark sheet. Nobody talks about, do you know how to communicate well? Are you an introvert? Will you be able to crack a job? 9 CGPA to mil gaya. GD crack kar paoge, PI crack kar paoge. These are questions that no one discusses. So when it comes to overall my vision is to stop complaining about these problems and do whatever I can. Now, as an entrepreneur, I can say I want to bring large level of scale. I know at the current stage that I am, it's not possible. But what's possible is touching organizations and colleges in my own small ways, which is exactly what Hibiki is doing in the last 1 year. So if you talk about the bandwidth that we have, maybe the bandwidth is not great. But if you talk about the effect that we've created in the number of people that we have trained, that is solid. So that is exactly what Hibiki also represents. And that's exactly what I also believe in, that it's not about the numbers. It's about how you have been able to touch people's life in your own ways.
Right. So Hibiki focus on more practical skills so that people, when they enter the real life world of working,
Absolutely.
they know how to operate. All right. So
Absolutely.
what is the goal of Hibiki? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Right. So for Hibiki, we function in two patterns, right? So we have one pattern which deals with students before they enter jobs, right? And the other pattern is that we deal with corporates related to very corporate structure and problems that they may have. Now, as far as the vision is concerned with students, we want to be able to act like a finishing school for students. So let's say your college is working on getting you academically ready and it's giving you the degree. What we will do is we'll give you the soft skills. So again, if I have to give you an example of this, we have so many engineers passing out every year, Sakshi. But take 5 emails that engineers send out to their clients sitting in US, you will be ashamed to read the sort of emails they write. Reason being, email etiquette ka koi class college mein hota hi nahi hai. Nobody knows that it's important to write a correct email. And when you're writing an email, you're representing yourself and your company. So this is exactly where Hibiki fits in, that we want to be a sort of a finishing school, so that when a fresher is entering the corporate, when a student is entering the corporate, he's not struggling with these problems. His thought process is more focused on how do I grow in my job role? How do I move on to be a manager? Rather than, मैं अपना communication ठीक कैसे करूं? HR को ये कैसे बताऊं? These problems are not the problems that our freshers should be focusing on, because they're ultimately building the economy. So this is with students. When it comes to corporates, our vision is to be enablers. So at Hibiki, we do not actually use the term teaching or training. We use the term called facilitation. I don't think I am or anybody from my team is in a position to educate or to train. That's not what we do. What we actually do is we facilitate in the process of your learning, which is why we can have 10 attendees to one same session, but learning curve of every attendee will be different because we have been able to facilitate it in a certain way for employee X versus employee Y. So even when it comes to these organizations, Sakshi, what happens sometimes is there's a gap. Now, the organizations think we are paying XYZ amount of salary. Therefore, ABC is the amount of input that we want. However, they don't understand that your employees are not equipped to give you ABC amount of input because they lack a certain employability skills in the first place. स्मॉल एग्जाम्पल कुड बी टाइम मैनेजमेंट. आप मुझे 1000 ईमेल भेज दोगे, मुझे ईमेल सॉर्ट करना ही नहीं आता यूजिंग माय टाइम. Eventually I'm going to either extend my hours by 2 hours where I will feel I am doing a favor to the company, but the company is going to think I'm an underperformer because I have not been able to clear 1000 mails in one day. So this is our vision with corporates, that we want to be able to partner with them, identify their problems and be solution providers. And the solutions that Hibiki provides are long term. So this is not about one pep talk where 50 employees of your organizations come, they attend your session, they go back, आपके बारे में ताली बजाते हैं, आपकी वाहवाही करते हैं. That's not what Hibiki does. What Hibiki is going to do is you come here, this is your experience, you decide how your experience to be and you go back. So I can have people from my session going with zero learning, and I can have people from my session who go out and within 6 months they can get a promotion also, because it is completely dependent on how they experience and they position themselves through our immersive learning process.
Right. Okay. So an organization this interesting, this unique, will definitely have a story behind it. So what inspired you to create Hibiki and change lives like that?
So I think for every entrepreneur, a part of what they do comes from their own personal challenges and experiences. So same thing for me, if you know today why Gujaratis are famous, I think they're famous for two things. One is the fact that they know how to do dhanda. And the second is that they do not know how to say English. So if you look at words, even in movies, you'll know it's a Gujarati when they hall ko hole bolenge ya mall ko mall bolenge ya snacks ko snake bolenge. This is what is popularized. So I realized that, I come from that same background and there are multiple people like me who possibly are going through this process, so we're always at that stage where we want to speak to people, but we know we are not prepared, we feel underconfident and we've not got that exposure. And this is the story of not one or two persons, but this is the story of, I think, youth across India, that when they are speaking to people one-on-one, they are very comfortable. But the moment 10 जन को इकट्ठा करके उसको आप एक स्टेज पे डाल दो, you'll see that same person who was speaking so much sense one-on-one will not be able to, interact or talk. Reason being, they're not having the confidence. They haven't been exposed that way. So this is a problem that I identified during my own college times also, that while we were all, getting churned in the process of education, 10 ho gaya, very good marks, 12 ho gaya, very good marks, chalo BCom, very good marks, beta aage life mein kya karna hai. But somehow nobody is realizing that in this entire process, what is the development that I have had as a person. So degree to mil gayi, but tomorrow when I have to talk about my own experience. So again, to give you an example, Sakshi, I train students in MBA colleges, in engineering colleges. The first question that we sort of ask is, tell me something about yourself. On an average, out of 100 people, 76 people cannot answer about themselves after an average of 21 years of life. Jo engineering पढ़ रहा है, that person will be 18, 19, 20, 21. That's the age bracket. 20 years of your life and you still can't introduce yourself. But you ask them Shah Rukh Khan ki movie ke bare mein batao, they will give you a vivid description. So that's the problem. We do not invest in ourselves. We do not want to develop ourselves. Then we complain jobs nahi hai, jobs ki salaries nahi hai. Companies complain कि हमें salary देना है, right candidate नहीं है. So somewhere there is a problem, right? And the problem is somewhere with the skill set that people have कि कोई इतना futuristic हुआ ही नहीं है to be able to imagine and visualize कि it's okay if I am not a 9 CGPA, I'm an 8 CGPA, but I can sell myself in an interview. People don't realize that. Whereas if I can be a 9 CGPA or 9.5 CGPA, but if I can't sell myself, what's the point? That CGPA is useless, right? Similarly with a company, now you ask any corporate organization what their goal is. They'll say they want to multiply their business, they want more verticals. Without people, you won't be able to do it. You can't take the human factor out of organizations, of companies. So when it's given कि लोगों के साथ ही आपको काम करना है, why not develop people and invest in them so that they can become your promoters of growth? So that is the idea, that when I was working on Hibiki, I have myself faced all these challenges because I've been a student and I've also worked in organizations. So when I worked in organizations, nobody said, you know what, Tanvi, you're interested in learning and development. Why don't you go and do this training certification? No organization invested in me. But I was always expected to perform as a learning and development trainer. Kahan se? We do not have degrees in India as of now who are specialized in L&D. आपको MBA in HR मिलेगा, but कुछ L&D related नहीं है. So today as a learning and development trainer, if I want to develop myself, what do? Either I back my experience or I go through some experiential learnings like this, which is exactly what happened with me, that I have been blessed that I found the correct people to work with. And they've always let me shadow their style of training, play with my own style of training, which is why I've been able to grow. So the entire idea behind Hibiki was कि we are here to help you, and it can be completely customized and tailor-made because सबके लिए learning curves अलग होते हैं. But the point is that initiation, that need to develop yourself has to come from there. So आप 2 कदम बढ़ोगे तो हम 4 कदम बढ़ेंगे, but that 2 steps has to come from there. That was the idea.
All right, great. I agree with you that everyone has their own speed of learning and their own learning curve. So I believe you must take an approach of an individualistic approach when you train your people. So
yes,
how do you work with it? Like when you're working with a group, how do you select individuals and work according to that? Because it's actually much harder to do that.
Right. So Sakshi, again, this comes to the basics of training. You know, something that I always probe colleges and organizations to do is the training needs assessment. So for example, colleges have impaneled us for a basic English program, you know, where we teach them reading, writing, speaking, learning. Because even when you look at universities, now your university may be in a city, लेकिन वो city में बहुत districts और towns से भी लोग आते हैं जहाँ पे English teaching होती भी नहीं है normally. So their English is the English that they've heard their professors sing, which is also not correct. Right? And then they come to college and then they go to corporates, multinational organizations, right? That's the, curve that they have to take. So with us, what we actually try and do is we sit and do a training need identification for every student and every employee. So with any organization or any institute that sort of works with Hibiki, something that we are very firm about, कि हम आपके हर इंसान को individually assess करेंगे. When you actually assess people individually, then you can put them in boxes, Sakshi. So there are some people जिनको आपको basics से सिखाना पड़ेगा. There are some people जिनके basics ठीक है, इनको बस polish करना पड़ेगा. But either or, जो polish जिसको करना है, अगर मैं उसको basic program में डालूं, तो he will feel disinterested because he already knows that content. Yeah. Versus जिसको basic में डालना चाहिए, मैं advanced में डाल दूं, he'll feel lost. कहाँ आ गए हम? What is happening? So we do a training need identification. On the basis of training need identification, we do the grouping. So if we think that out of the 50 people, ये 10 जन को basics की जरूरत है, हम वो 10 जन का एक अलग group create करके फिर उन्हें train करते हैं. Which is why it's a complete group methodology, but in the group also it's a very safe environment because you are learning and practicing with people who are at the same level. So there is no chance of you to develop a complex or be fearful. Once you're okay with that level, we move you to the next level. That's the methodology that we follow.
Amazing. So I want you to walk me through all those courses that you offer and how in all those courses you pick out people and then train them according to their individual learning curves.
Right. So with colleges, there are approximately 2 to 3 types of trainings that we do, which is in the initial years. Now, same thing with colleges. See, India में क्या होता है, colleges will only approach you pre-placement. And pre-placement, they'll give you 3 days, 4 days. I don't have a magic wand. Pre-placement, I teach them, I polish them, and they'll crack companies. Because, developing effective communication is an art. It's not science कि मैं आपको थ्योरम सिखा दूं, आपको थ्योरम अप्लाई करना आ गया, आप सीख जाओगे. It's an art. You'll have to know how to use your hands, how to make eye contact, what should be your body language. All of this is an art, which is why every individual is unique. So what we try and do is we try and speak to these colleges to give us their students in the initial years to start working with. एक थॉट तो डाले उनके दिमाग में कि भाई ये सब जरूरी है. How are you going to get jobs? How are you planning to crack the GD if you've never done a physical interaction with 5 people at the same time? So we work with the first years on these basics. We work with them on English. We work with them on figuring how they want their resumes to look, how they should start talking in a GD, how they should start talking in a PI. That's one form. The second form is a very rigorous pre-placement training that we do. So for every company, they have their own process. Like there can be an aptitude exam that they have to clear. Then there'll be a group discussion. There'll be a personal interview, whatever they have to go through. So here what we do is we adopt the methodology of taking the students through each of these steps. So we'll train them with aptitude, we'll train them with group discussions, and we'll also train them with PI. To an extent that we actually do a personal interview with 500 students of that college if the need be. सबको एक round of personal interview हमारे साथ करना ही पड़ेगा to be able to go and do it on that day. So this is how we work with colleges. Except for this, a lot of colleges just approach us for soft skills also. That they want their students to sort of have goal setting. They want their students to sort of understand career options that they could pursue after, class, after their BCom, after class 12, whichever way. So we work on that aspect. With corporates, this is very need based. So we also try and create normal programs. Let's say there could be a session on effective leadership, where 5 to 6 people or 7 people from each company can join. So that's an open program. Versus we also do a customized program. So if, an ex company comes and tells me that my employees don't listen to my managers, I have to do something about that. In that case, we take real talk, stock of the entire situation. We do a manager's assessment, employees assessment, and then we curate a program for them which is very, very relevant and effective to only their area of work and their approach of communication. So we do both of these models. So corporate trainings, your soft skills trainings for schools, colleges, all of that. And also Hibiki works internationally. So we have been associated with Bangladesh for over a year now. Bangladesh is very, very similar to India in terms of the employability skill gap. So their people also have the same problem. So there we coach them on very specific technical programs as well as soft skills. Like we do a full Microsoft Office course with them where we teach them Excel, we teach them PowerPoint, we teach them how to use LinkedIn, we teach them how to be able to market themselves or personally brand themselves. So Hibiki is doing international trainings with corporates and with colleges. These are the 3 verticals that we are working in.
Right. So your way of operating differs from organization to organization, right?
Absolutely. So we do offline and online both, depending on what is the organization's need. Of course, during the pandemic, we have been focusing a lot on offline, but we've also gone out and done offline programs at the same time. So we've done both. And even if the need be, we are in a position to, let's say, design an entire course where we can design the entire content. And let's say if they want to deliver it through another trainer, then we also give them that option where we develop the content for them and we take their trainer through the entire PPT and they can deliver it that way. Because sometimes what happens is, let's say if you're doing a presentation with people who are primarily restricted to a language. For example, bilingual hona chahiye and the second language should be Telugu. Now, Hibiki may not be in a position to deliver the training in Telugu. So what do? We create the content for you. We take that trainer through the entire content and that person can go on and deliver it in the language that they are comfortable in. So we do all of this together.
Okay, so like you said that it depends from organization to organization. What is the difference between an organization that has trained their employees under your guidance and between the one that hasn't trained their employees?
All right. The first is going to be attitude, So the first thing that we actually work on, and I think this is exactly what training needs to be able to do, is we work with people's attitude. अगर आपका mindset ही नहीं है कि हमें ये training की जरूरत है, आपको दुनिया का कोई भी ट्रेनर आके वो ट्रेनिंग करा देगा, you will not be receptive to it. So the first thing that we actually work on is attitude. Second thing that we align our employees or students to is the organization. So most of the times when you look out to people who are working, they have very separate personal goals, and they don't even know what the organizational goals they are contributing to. So we make them aware कि भाई ये organizational goal है, और ये organizational goal से आप अपना goal कैसे बना सकते हो वो map करिए. Your goal cannot be above the organization. It needs to be in line with the organization. So the second thing is that we, try and align them to the goals of the organization. The third is that at Hibiki, every person is going to feel that they are heard. So my entire team and myself, I think something that we really believe in is not all people require solutions. Few people just require someone to listen to them, because they just want to vent out. They do not want you to solve your problem. You can't solve their problem. But the idea that you've actually made time to listen to them gives them a perspective that, okay, we are being appreciated. Koi to hai hame sunne wala. So I think the third thing is that people feel valued and appreciated, because even if we are training a company and let's say the security guard has a complaint, I will still listen to that security guard, though I'm not being paid for it, because I'm going to make him feel that he belongs to the system. He is valued. His efforts are valued. That's the third thing. And last thing is, like I said, that every person who's gone through Hibiki has been empowered in some or the other way. So somebody who's trained with our training methodology, they'll know that we do not have to always, so when we do training, we call something called inner circle and outer circle. Inner circle are the things I can change and I can control, like my attitude towards you. But what I can't control is your attitude towards me. That's beyond my control. Half of the human problems we have is because we try to control other person's attitudes. Ye mujhse aake aise kyun baat kar raha hai? That's not your problem. The problem is, why are you reacting like that? So this is something that Hibiki empowers people to do, is you take charge of your own problems, and the idea is that we do not, anybody who's trained under us, we don't expect them to be excellent. If they are excellent, we will be very happy to be a part of the journey. But the idea is we want them to know, no matter which part of your journey you are in, we are with you. So if you're at the beginning level, we are in the race with you as beginners. If you've gone to the middle, we are there to be your cheerleaders. If you've reached the end, we'll talk to you about the next race. That's the methodology that we have at Hibiki. So every person who's gone through our training will have experienced some sort of a connection, some bonding. And I think they themselves become a little more empathetic once they've gone through this entire training.
So through Hibiki's trainings, organizations and people can be less toxic by enhancing and promoting dynamic workspaces and communication and interactiveness, right? So in the era of
I
work,
wouldn't want to use the word toxic for people in general. I don't think people are toxic in the first place. I think situations make us act in a certain way. And it deals a lot with the situation management. So the idea is you can have the same person respond to you in a very calm manner, and you can have the same person respond to you in a very aggravated manner. The difference is what sort of background or what sort of training has been put into that person. So you can it's very much like the psychology. Human beings are animals in one way or the other. So just the way, you will see with the certain dogs, they are very aggressive. Koi naya ghar pe aayega to wo log enter hi nahi karne denge, because they've not been trained a certain way. Versus you'll see there are other dogs who will go and get onto the lap of the person who's coming. So you have both sorts of dogs, and I think it's the same behavior that gets replicated with human beings also, but it's just the difference of situations. So for example, you'll have one employee jisko hamesha boss publicly kharab bolta hai. You've not sent me the report. You've not done this on time. You did not. But that person is never publicly appreciated. Of course, that person is going to behave in a very toxic manner because he feels he's not valued. But if you are publicly criticizing him and you publicly appreciate him, you'll see the attitude will change. So these are things that we work on even with managers and leaders, because I don't think the problem is just at the grassroots level. The problem starts from here and it goes down. So we have to work here as well as here, both ways.
So according to you, the resolution lies in teaching people how to channel their communication.
Absolutely. I think the resolution, so, when you actually train, Sakshi, it's going to be both ways, right? You'll see students blame the college blames the students, right? The students will say, college to jobs la hi nahi pate, hum kya crack kare. Colleges will say, hum itte jobs late hain, ye log crack nahi kar pate hain. the blame goes on. Employee organization, it's the same thing. Ma'am, we do so much, we are not appreciated, our manager is never sitting with us, right? Manager is going to say, ma'am, मैं इतनी गाली खाता हूँ अपने बॉस से लिए, इनके लिए, और इनको देखो, look at their attitude. So essentially you will see everyone wants the same thing. College को भी चाहिए कि बच्चे का अच्छा placement हो, बच्चे को भी चाहिए मेरा अच्छा placement, goal same है. तो प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है कि वी आर नॉट कम्युनिकेटिंग कि भाई गोल तो सेम है आप लोग दोनों का. सेम थिंग विथ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. यू नो, टुडे इफ अ पर्टिकुलर टीम इज परफॉर्मिंग वेल, it is good for the manager and for the team members because they both get the share of appreciation or rewards, whichever way. But again, you know, everyone thinks they are against each other. That's the psychology that people have. So that is exactly where we align them that, you know, bro, you're on the same team. Like, why are you fighting each other? This is the same team. Dushman koi aur hai. Focus there. So that's the idea. Yes.
Yeah. So that it's a win-win situation for both.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks a lot, Ms. Ajmera, for joining us today and giving us such amazing insights about Hibiki and all it stands for. We wish you the very best of luck in future and hope to see you again sometime on Inventiva. Till then, this is...
Thank you so much, Sakshi, for taking out your time. It was a pleasure to interact with you.
Same. Till then, this is Sakshi signing off. Stay safe and subscribe to Inventiva for daily updates.